I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, here with Jason Kosinski, who directed Top Gun Maverick, the biggest film of 2022. First of all, Joseph, congrats on Best Film at the National Board of Review, and the film's been nominated and named in the top 10 films on the AFI. That's amazing.
It's incredible. I'm thrilled and just so proud of everyone who worked on the film. It's a great honor.
Yeah, it is. It doesn't happen often when, the biggest blockbuster of the year is also beloved by fans and critics and, people in the industry. So I just think, yeah, congratulations to all of you. After Tony Scott tragically died in 2012, it appeared that the sequel was going to languish for some time, but then you were brought on to helm the project. Can you talk me through how that came about and I guess your significant role in pitching the film's narrative that we see in the final product?
Yeah, it started with Jerry Bruckheimer sent me a script that they had been working on. I was in post on a film called Only the Brave. I remember I was up at Skywalker Sound mixing, and I read the draft they had, and I thought there were some elements in it I really liked, but I had ideas about how to transform it and turn it into a more emotional journey for Maverick, because I knew that's what Tom would respond to, having done a film with him. Emotion and character always comes first. So I went and pitched these ideas to Jerry, and then Jerry loved the direction. So he was like, well, you got to pitch this to Tom directly. And I was like, great. And he said, he's in Paris, so we got to go to Paris. So we flew to Paris. Tom was shooting Mission Impossible at the time. We got about a half hour of his time in between setups. And I had a half hour to kind of pitch the kind of fundamental pillars of this film. The first being that this story would be one of reconciliation between Maverick and the son of his wingman, Goose. And this reconciliation would be set against the training and ultimate execution of this mission that would take both of them deep into enemy territory, at which point they'd have to find a way to kind of get over their differences and fight their way back. So I think as soon as I said that, I could see the wheels in Tom's head start to turn, because finally he had an emotional hook into this character. And then I talked about how we find Maverick. The whole opening Dark Star sequence was something that I had very clearly in my head, being a fan of the right stuff as a kid, and finding Maverick on the very edges of aviation, pushing himself, pushing aviation, still being Maverick, was an important way to kick it off. And then we just talked about how we would make it, obviously practically as much as possible. And then the title, I said, we can't call it Top Gun 2. That's what they were calling it at the time. I was like, we got to call it Top Gun Maverick. And Tom looked at me and looked at Jerry and pulled his phone out and called the head of Paramount Pictures and said, we're making this movie. So it was pretty incredible to see, an actor greenlight a movie in that moment.
Right. I mean, that never happens, but that's the power of Tom Cruise. And also no pressure, man. You get half an hour. The whole world is teetering on the edge, the world who wants to see Maverick return. So that's an amazing story. And I love how the film honors Tony Scott's legacy in a way. It tips its hat to the original's essence, but it catapults us into the modern era. And so I imagine that you would have been quite careful and considerate about calibrating the nostalgia, which I really loved, and of course the desire to give us something new that we haven't seen before, which I also really loved.
Yeah, I had the memory of seeing that first film as a 12-year-old kid on the big screen in the summer of 1986. And that's one of those experiences that, a lot of the experiences I remember as a kid are seeing great films. Yeah. And that was one that stuck out. Tony Scott's artistry in a giant blockbuster film was pretty revolutionary. And so I wanted this film to exist in the universe of Top Gun, I wanted to feel like a Top Gun movie. I wanted to have that timeless quality. But at the same time, yeah, I knew we would have to innovate because the bar was set very high by that first film. And in order to make a movie worthy of the Top Gun name in we shot it in 2018, 2019, we'd have to find a way to kind of forge our own path. And so we really worked hard to push the envelope in every way on this film. Obviously, we've talked a lot about how we shot it. My DP, Claudia Miranda, and I and the whole camera team just worked really hard to figure out how to capture these aerial sequences in a way that hadn't been done before, so that the audience would have that visceral reaction to what it's to try to get a taste of what it's like to be in one of these fighter jets.
Yeah, the technical aspects of the film are mind-boggling, breathtaking. I saw it on the biggest screen possible with the best possible audio sound. I was completely blown away by it. And then obviously, as a film nerd, started wondering for weeks, how on earth did they do it? I didn't really want to go into the rabbit hole of the YouTube thing. I kind of just wanted to leave it in the mystique. But I'm curious to know whether there were any aspects that even you thought, I mean, this is going to keep me up at night. How on earth am I going to do this?
Yeah, certainly while we were shooting it, the idea of putting Tom in one of these jets is something that I knew we'd be able to do because it's Tom, and I've worked with him before, and he can do anything. The thing that kept me up at night was putting all the other actors in these jets. That was something that for all of these young actors, none of them had done anything like this before and probably never will again. So putting them in these jets, even though they had been trained for months and had all the safety training, it was still something that I was very, very aware of every day. The thing is, I knew they were with the best aviators in the world, the Top Gun pilots that were flying them, the men and women of the U.S. Navy that were doing these missions for us. The level of professionalism was pretty astonishing, and we had practiced and briefed and knew exactly what we were going to do. So I knew they were in very, very good hands. But nonetheless, it is pretty. It's astonishing, I think, what they were all able to do up there. That's the thing that really blows me away, that every single one of them was able to get their scenes up in the air. And that was took a tremendous amount of effort on every one of their parts.
Yeah, absolutely. When I think back on what I felt like when I walked out of the cinema, and then looking back for months later, all the technical stuff was amazing, but it's actually those quiet moments that really got me. Like when Maverick sighs, I don't know how, with tears in his eyes after Iceman tells him it's time to let go, I fell apart. It meant the world to me to see those two together and to see Tom Cruise's performance, this moment of stillness and profound connection surrounded by the spectacle that we were seeing in the scenes before and after. It's just such amazing work, Joseph. Like, how did you feel about how that scene turned out? Because to me, it's the scene of the film.
Yeah. Well, I always approached the film as a drama. I didn't approach it as an action film. Our effort on the script and developing the story, 90% of that went into the very personal journey that Maverick went on through this film. So the drama always came first. It's where we put, I would say, most of the effort. And, that's why the script and the casting is the most important aspect of my job, because you have to have the right story, but you also have to have the right cast to tell that story. And, obviously we were starting with Tom Cruise, which is an incredible place to begin. But each of these pieces around him, it was critical to get an actor of the highest quality to pull this off. And that goes, so it was Miles and Jennifer, and then obviously Val for that scene. It was Val's idea for how to incorporate Iceman into this film. He's the one who came up with the storyline for Iceman, and it just opened this incredible opportunity to tell this story for Maverick. And that day you're speaking of, that scene is one of those days I'll never forget, because you're seeing two actors at the height of their powers in terms of acting, in a scene together that felt very, very genuine in the moment. What you see on screen, I think it very much mirrors real life, and the amount of respect that they had for each other was really, and the friendship that they've built over the years, it was all there. And yeah, that was definitely one of the most memorable days on set for me.
Do you recall when, when Claudio's camera is kind of pretty tight on both of their faces, and you're, I assume, in the director's chair looking at screens and at the set, what was going through your mind when you saw that it was happening, and it was just so pitch perfect?
I mean, that's what you hope for. That's what you dream for as a director, is that you're able to create a space where actors can do their best work. And, I remember I was sitting there with Jerry Bruckheimer right beside me, and, I can't even imagine how it felt for him being back, with those two guys, over 30 years later, continuing the story of this really unique friendship. So that's what you hope for. But again, I have to give credit to the two of them for that scene, because it's all about performance. Obviously we had a great script that we worked very hard on to get it to that point. But when it comes to that moment between action and cut, it's in the actor's hands, and you just hope that you can capture, what they're giving.
What they're giving, yeah, exactly. Speaking of actors, what I love most about watching Miles Teller and his performance is this compelling dichotomy that he has. He's so outwardly masculine, and yet he's got this intense vulnerability under the surface. He's really good at that. You've worked with him 3 times. 3 of your last features feature him. So what do you most value about working with Miles? Because you seem to have a really good connection with him.
It's exactly what you said. I think you stated perfectly. He's got that strength and confidence that you want in a leading actor. But just as important, he has a vulnerability that is just very unique. He's a tremendous actor. The career he's put together, at the age he's at, is pretty phenomenal. And he's always looking to do something new and something different. And like you said, I'd just come off working on Only the Brave with him, where he did a phenomenal job. And as soon as, we centered on this storyline of this relationship between Maverick and Rooster, I had this feeling that Miles could be the perfect fit. And I, in fact, showed Tom a picture of Miles in that first meeting where I pitched the story to him, just because I said, I've just worked with this guy, and I think he's spectacular and could really be a good fit for this. And Tom already had incredible respect for Miles based on, the movies he had already made. So thankfully it all worked out.
Yeah, I hope to see Miles, winning Oscars one day. I just think he's that good, and
he will. He absolutely will. Yeah,
he's so good. And speaking of, I love it how this film is in the conversation for the Oscars. It absolutely deserves to be, and I expect us at Gold Derby, we kind of know about this stuff a little, and we think that it will be. How do you feel about that? There's so much pressure. You've got the weight of the world on your shoulders, expectation to make a film that we're all going to love. It turns out beautifully. We all love it. Now it's being talked about with awards. Critics love it. How does that make you? It's a silly question, I suppose, because I know what the answer will be, but I mean, how does it make you feel?
Well, it's incredible to see the film celebrated. Obviously, we could have never anticipated that, and it's not why we made it. We just set out to make a great film and tell a great story with Tom, and the pressure's off because the world has seen it. People are seeing it in the theater, which is what we always wanted. It's it's had this incredible life in theaters. You know, it's still in theaters,
Yeah.
even though, you know, we released it in May. So it's done everything we could have ever hoped. And this, you know, everything, all this award stuff is very flattering. And for me, it's all about honoring the work that the crew did to bring this thing to life, because it was thousands of people that worked on this film. So I'm just proud and love celebrating the people who make movies.
Yeah, it's delicious gravy that I hope will flow over the next few months. And honestly, like in post-pandemic life, to get people back to the cinemas is no mean feat. Like my parents in their 70s went to the cinema to see this film. That never happens. Like it
Yeah.
really brought everybody out because
I've heard that story over and over.
Yeah.
It's the most gratifying thing when people say it's the first movie I saw in 2 years in a theater, or your story that I took my grandparents and they never go to the movies and they saw it 3 times. Nothing could make us more proud and happier than hearing that, because that's exactly why we made it. We wanted to make a movie that celebrated the theatrical experience. So, you know, luckily it seems to have, you know, done that.
It did, yeah. That I've not seen that kind of word of mouth for some time, probably since the first Avatar. It's been that long, and word of mouth just, I mean, no, I have to put aside half of my day to go to the cinema. I don't care about COVID and all that stuff. I just need to enjoy it, and it really has happened. So are we going to see a sequel? Because that, I just can't imagine why you wouldn't want to make a sequel. Do you think that will ever happen, and would you ever do it?
You know, if we could come up with a story that feels like it has to be told, you know, I think, you know, you look at the end of the film as a beautiful conclusion, but
Yeah,
you know, it still certainly feels like there's, you know, Maverick has a lot of miles left in the tank. I think there's plenty more he can do. So we'll see. But as of right now, I think we're all just really enjoying the response to this film, and we're all busy, you know, diving into other things, but you know, who knows down the road.
okay, so the door's still open. Final question.
Yeah.
You know, with so much mystique that surrounds Tom Cruise as a concept, even just apart from the man himself, with, you know, people desperate to know more about his private life and his Scientology and all that stuff that I personally don't care about. I just think that there's no one like him. He's the biggest movie star on earth and probably ever. What is the thing, you've worked with him twice now, what is the thing that you personally value most about working or collaborating with him that makes him special?
Boy, that's hard to put in, you know, one word, but yeah, I've made 2 films with him. He, you know, he put so much faith in me from the very beginning. He signed on to do Oblivion with me 6 months before Tron Legacy had even come out. So
Wow.
he's had this tremendous amount of trust and faith in me, which is just incredible. I've learned so much from him. He is very giving, knows so much about filmmaking. And I think the thing that really sticks out is just his passion and love for what he does. You know, I think that's such an incredible thing, and so important to love what you do, because if you do, it doesn't feel like work. And he truly loves filmmaking, and wakes up every day trying to figure out how to push himself and push the crew and push the medium. So that's inspiring. The most inspiring thing to me is just to see someone with all the success he has, doesn't have to work another day in his life, yet I guarantee right now he's out there somewhere, you know, doing something that's probably never been done before. And that's a great thing. That's the great thing about Tom, is he'll always be out there pushing the envelope.
Yeah, I think that's the key. He pushes the medium, he pushes the envelope. He doesn't have to, and he makes the best choices. And so I can't wait to see what he's going to do next. I can't wait to see what you're going to do next. Thank you so much for your time today, Joseph. Congrats on a great film.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.